Okay, so you want to own a cafe. It sounds like the perfect small business. A cozy space filled with the smell of fresh coffee. A line of customers waiting every morning. Baristas pouring beautiful latte art. People working on laptops for hours while buying expensive drinks. Every cup sold feels like easy money. Coffee beans are cheap. Milk costs even less. A latte sells for several dollars. On paper, it looks like one of the highest margin businesses on earth. But that mental model breaks down almost immediately, because the coffee isn't the business. The clock is. Every empty chair during the morning rush is lost revenue you can never recover. Every customer who occupies a table for 3 hours after buying a single drink quietly destroys your revenue per seat. Every slow afternoon still costs almost exactly the same in wages, rent, electricity, equipment leases, and inventory spoilage as a busy one. Read that again. Most cafe owners don't fail because they make bad coffee. They fail because they misunderstand capacity. They believe they are selling drinks when they are really renting time inside a very expensive building. The cafes that consistently make money aren't necessarily the ones serving the best espresso. They're the ones that turn seats, control labor, protect margins, and make every square foot earn its keep before the next customer walks through the door. Now, here's where another myth falls apart. People talk about cafes as if they're all the same business. They aren't. The economics change dramatically depending on the model you choose. At the entry level, you have the neighborhood independent cafe. Opening one typically requires between $100,000 and $300,000, depending on the location, renovations, and equipment. These shops rely heavily on loyal local customers, repeat visits, and careful cost control, because they rarely benefit from massive customer traffic. The next tier is the premium specialty cafe. These businesses often require investments of $300,000 to $700,000. They spend more on interior design, premium coffee beans, highly trained baristas, and advanced brewing equipment. Customers pay higher prices, but they also expect a significantly better experience. Then you have franchise cafes. Buying into a recognized brand can easily require $500,000 to well over $1 million once franchise fees, construction, equipment, and working capital are included. In return, operators receive established branding, marketing support, supplier relationships, and proven operating systems. Finally, there are flagship urban cafes operating in prime commercial districts. These locations can require several $1 million to build and maintain. Their success depends on extraordinary customer volume because premium rents leave very little room for operational mistakes. Same product, completely different economics. Now let's talk about the money that disappears before you sell your very first cup of coffee. Most first-time owners budget for espresso machines, furniture, coffee grinders, refrigerators, and renovations. Those are obvious expenses. The real surprises come later. A professional espresso machine alone can cost anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000. Add commercial grinders, water filtration systems, refrigeration, point-of-sale software, kitchen equipment, signage, security systems, and initial inventory, and your capital spending climbs quickly. Then come permits, business licenses, food safety compliance, insurance, architectural plans, legal fees, and contractor delays that quietly inflate the budget. So far, so good. Now the monthly bills arrive. Rent is usually the biggest fixed expense, followed closely by wages. Then you have electricity running expensive equipment from morning until night. Water, internet, payment processing fees, equipment maintenance, waste collection, cleaning supplies, packaging, accounting, marketing, and inventory losses from spoiled milk, pastries, and fresh ingredients. Read that again. A cafe can be full of customers and still struggle with cash flow because most of these costs continue whether sales are booming or painfully slow. The biggest mistake isn't underestimating the price of opening. It's underestimating the cost of staying open every single day, even when the seats are empty and the espresso machine is silent. Now, here's where most people completely misunderstand the cafe business. They think the money comes from selling coffee. It doesn't. The real profit comes from everything wrapped around the coffee. A basic brewed coffee often carries a healthy margin, but cafes multiply their profits by encouraging customers to buy pastries, sandwiches, desserts, bottled drinks, and seasonal specials. A customer who spends $4 on coffee is good. A customer who spends $15 on breakfast and another $6 on a premium drink is dramatically better. Think about it like this. Imagine two identical cafes serving 100 customers each day. The first cafe earns $6 per customer. The second increases the average transaction by just $3 through food, upgrades, and add-ons. That small difference creates an extra $300 every day. Over a year, that's well over $100,000 in additional revenue without attracting a single extra customer. Read that again. The cheapest customer to acquire is the one already standing at your counter. Successful operators know this. They redesign menus to increase average ticket size. They bundle drinks with food. They introduce limited-time specials that carry higher margins. They optimize seating during peak hours and encourage faster table turnover. The winning cafe isn't always the busiest one. It's the one that earns the most from every customer who walks through the door while keeping food waste, labor costs, and operating expenses under relentless control. So why do so many cafes fail? It usually isn't because people stop drinking coffee. It's because the business runs out of cash before it reaches stable profitability. Many owners overestimate daily customer traffic and underestimate how long it takes to build a loyal customer base. They sign expensive long-term leases, finance costly renovations, hire too many employees, and assume sales will grow fast enough to cover everything. When reality falls short, debt payments don't wait. A well-known example is Cafe Nero in the United States. Despite operating under an established international brand, the company filed for bankruptcy protection during the pandemic, after lockdowns dramatically reduced customer traffic and fixed costs continued to accumulate. The business eventually restructured, but the episode showed how quickly even recognized brands can face financial distress when revenue suddenly disappears. Another example is Brigo, the automated coffee startup that raised millions of dollars to build robotic coffee kiosks. The technology attracted attention, but scaling the business proved far more difficult than expected. Eventually, the company was acquired after failing to achieve the growth needed to justify its heavy investment. The lesson is simple. Cafes rarely collapse because coffee becomes unpopular. They collapse because fixed costs, debt, and unrealistic growth expectations leave owners with no margin for error when sales slow down. So, after everything we've covered, is owning a cafe actually a good business? The answer is yes, but probably not for the reasons most people think. A well-managed independent cafe in a strong location can generate annual net profit margins of roughly 8 to 15% after operating expenses. Exceptional operators with efficient labor scheduling, disciplined inventory management, and strong food sales may occasionally push beyond that. Most don't. In an optimistic scenario, an owner builds a loyal customer base, keeps waste low, increases the average customer spend, and maintains steady foot traffic throughout the year. The return on investment can become attractive after several years, especially if the business expands into catering, wholesale coffee, or multiple locations. The realistic scenario is less glamorous. Margins are squeezed by rising rent, higher wages, volatile coffee bean prices, equipment repairs, and slower than expected sales. One weak season or a poorly negotiated lease can erase an entire year's profit. Read that again. Owning a cafe is not simply about making great coffee. It's about managing costs with military discipline while creating an experience customers choose over dozens of competitors every single day. Because in the cafe business, the espresso gets people through the door. The economics determine whether the doors stay open. And that's the rule every successful cafe owner eventually learns. Revenue fills the cup, but disciplined execution is what keeps it full.